Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of the Gabbing Gamer Geeks. I am your host, as always, Rontro, aka Rohan Solo, your favorite video game bounty hunter and one half of the Retro Bros. And this evening, I am flying solo. I'm going to do a discussion on Pokémon GO. Seems as it is a major trend right now. I've actually spent some time with the game, so I figured I would do a discussion about it here on my own. A lot to talk about, actually. I just want to take a second to let you guys know that I was not able to capture any Pokémon GO footage. I have no way of capturing footage on my tablet, so for the time being, I figured you all could watch me play some of the trading card game online while I have this discussion. First off, I'm going to talk about what I think of the game. It is a very fun and entertaining game. Another person in my household is also playing it, my children's mother. We do spend time, we'll go outside with the kids and go searching for Pokemon. So, you know, it gets the family out walking around, having fun together, getting exercise together, and, you know, it kind of sucks for living in an area like I do. I live in a small town in Pennsylvania, and, you know, my town only has one Pokestop. There's not a whole lot in the way of that. There's no gyms, and there's very few Pokemon in the area. But it's still fun, nonetheless. You know, I hope to one day get out and about elsewhere and see what we can find. But we are having a lot of fun with the game when the servers are up. And, you know, that leads me into wanting to talk about one of the first things I wanted to actually talk about, speaking of servers being down. One of the reasons for the servers being down was this game actually had a DDoS attack, and the group that was responsible came forward, known as Poodle Corp. As of the article that I looked at, it hasn't been verified that it was Poodle Corp, but they claim that it was them, and they say they will be doing something on a larger scale soon. I don't know if that's still something to do with Pokemon GO or something else, but they do promise for something larger. And they've also been known for targeting high-profile YouTubers such as PewDiePie, according to Gamer Nuke. Now, he's a YouTuber I don't generally watch, but you know, us YouTubers are a pretty tight community, and, you know, it sucks when one of our own is attacked by, whether it be a group of people or one single hacker or whatever. You know, it's never good. I mean, we did see recently, and actually had his whole channel deleted, was Boogie2988. So, you know, this stuff happens quite often, you know, YouTubers being attacked and whatnot, and it sucks. For those of you that don't know what DDoS stands for, it stands for Distributed Devial of Service. And it's a way for, you know, the troublemakers out there to crash servers by flooding the servers with too many requests every second, and, you know, the servers just can't handle it. So the servers end up going down. It's a real bummer when stuff like that happens, and, you know, Pokemon GO is also susceptible to it as well, you know, just because it's a super popular game and is run by a great company like Nintendo doesn't make it immune to such attacks. So, you know, not only have we had problems with servers going down due to the flood of new people signing up or everybody trying to log in at once, you know, on top of that we have these attacks. Anyways, another thing about Pokemon GO, players are starting to sell their accounts on the internet now. eBay, Craigslist, even selling them on Facebook, actually. These accounts feature rare to high level Pokemon and are selling for more than $100. Just an example, level 14 accounts were going on average of $100, and a level 15 account was going for $175. Their lower priced ones were going for about $50, which those accounts were sitting at about level 10. Also, this is a big money maker, and apparently, not just for Nintendo, obviously, for players too. But just speaking of making money off the game, Nintendo's stocks have gone up almost 30% and they have made over $6 billion just within the first few days of the game being out. And them numbers have probably increased since, this was only after a few days, these numbers. And now the game's been out, almost 2 weeks. So I'm sure them numbers are high. And, Nintendo is going to keep on with the nostalgia train, not with just Pokemon GO, but also the NES, which will be a discussion for another day, because this is about Pokemon GO. And of course, with this game comes some pretty unfortunate events, actually. Just to start off, you had the 15-year-old who wandered out onto a highway and got hit by a car playing Pokemon GO. We've had people walking off cliffs because, not being aware of their surroundings. And, the game even says, right as it's loading up, to always be aware of your surroundings. You're even being told before you play the game and actually, start walking around catching your Pokemon, to pay attention to where you're going. And a lot of people aren't. Two men in, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing this right, in Encinitas, California, two men in their early 20s fell off a cliff. They walked right off of it. It was estimated to be 50 to 90 feet high. And, they sustained injuries. How severe is unsure. I haven't really found much more information on it. But, seriously, these guys could have lost their lives if they didn't lose their lives. Like I said, I don't know. I haven't seen any more about it. But, people could potentially lose their lives playing this. And, people are blaming the game. Like that 15-year-old and her mother. They're blaming the game for the accident because they were in the process of playing Pokemon GO when this happened. No, don't blame the game. You are responsible for your actions, the games aren't. That's like trying to say, a spoon and a fork made me fat. Or, something to that effect. Whatever. Don't blame the game for something you did really stupid and dumb. I'm sorry, I do feel bad for them people that got hurt. I feel bad for them. At the same time, I really don't, because, they brought it on themselves. No matter what you're doing, whether it be driving, walking, whatever, you should always be paying attention to your surroundings. You shouldn't be having your nose buried into a phone. I know that when I'm playing Pokemon GO, yes, I will look down at my screen on occasion, just to get a general idea of where Pokemon is, because, leaves come flying up from the ground in the general area of where the Pokemon is. So, there's no need to be constantly having your nose in your mobile device to find these Pokemon. Get a general idea of where it is and walk over and pay attention to what you're doing on your walk over. Yes, you may miss out on the opportunity to get that Pokemon, but you know what? You'll always have another chance. If you're an avid player of this game, it's not going to be your only chance to find that Pokemon. Yes, you want to try and get it as soon as possible. The name of the game is to catch them all, but you really need to pay attention to what you're doing. I mean, you even have people, playing Pokemon GO while driving. There's been incidences of driving while playing Pokemon GO and tweeting at the same time. You have people putting signs in the back of their car windows saying, they make frequent stops for Pokemon. And you have traffic accidents because people were too busy with their nose in their phone. You know, if texting and driving is not okay, what makes you think that playing Pokemon Go and tweeting that you're driving while playing Pokemon Go is okay? In Nashville, Tennessee, 4 men were arrested for robbing a man and woman who were playing Pokemon Go just outside an East End United Methodist church. And you know, these 4 men were armed, and they used this game as a lure to rob people. In O'Fallon, Missouri, 4 teens ranging ages 16 to 18 are suspected to be behind 10 to 11 armed robberies in St. Louis and St. Charles counties, which they use the app as bait to bring their victims to them. As I said, the stupidity train of this all, you know, that people, come on, you know, this is a game we're supposed to be having fun, not getting hurt, not robbing people, not hacking it so servers crash. You know, this was meant to be a way for people to have fun, for people to actually get out there in their communities again and not be stuck in their houses playing video games, but actually have a reason to go outside and spend more time with their families and whatnot, you know, to catch Pokemon. And like I said, it's good for a workout, you know, it's exercise walking around, you know, and that just brings me to my next point, actually, about this game. Another thing I found while searching information on this game, there's people actually quitting their jobs because of Pokemon Go, which, again, more stupidity. But on the other end of things, like I said, the whole, you know, exercise thing, there is a boss at a company known as TNW that has made it mandatory for its employees to play at least 30 minutes of Pokemon Go a day, preferably after lunch hours due to benefits of exercising after a meal. I want a boss like that. You know, I've never had a job where a boss would be okay with me playing a video game during work. Actually, back when I used to work at a junk mail factory known as North American Communications, I had bought myself a DS Lite with one of my first paychecks, and I would take it to my lunch breaks and play it. I could have only imagined if I decided I was going to take it with me to my machine and captured Pokemon on my DS while working. I think my boss would have been rather ticked off. But, you know, this boss actually is saying, hey, you have to play Pokemon Go. And I want you to do it after your lunch hour for just 30 minutes. You know, the exercise is good for you. Go do it. And, you know, that's using the software for something smart, actually. You know, kudos to that boss for coming up with that idea. That's awesome. But, you know, so the unfortunate events seem to continue on with this game. Dead bodies are being found. There was one found in New Hampshire floating down a brook at Rotary Park in, I'm going to say it's Nashua, which is a popular area for players due to poke stops. 3 women were playing Pokemon Go in Marion Bear Memorial Park in San Diego and found a dead body near a creek bed laying in the bushes. In Riverton, Wyoming, a 19-year-old girl, and I believe this was actually the first report of a dead body while playing Pokemon Go. I could be wrong, but anyways, in Riverton, Wyoming, a 19-year-old girl finds a dead body floating down the Big Wind River right behind her home. I mean, could you imagine that? You're just walking along, minding your own business, enjoying playing Pokemon Go, and you decide, oh, you know, I'm going to go down by the water and try to catch me some, water-based Pokemon, and you come across that. Man, you know, if it had been, I'm sure, you know, it really, what word am I looking for? I'm sure that this girl was disturbed by this. I'm sure anybody that has ever found a dead body would be quite disturbed by this, you know, finding a dead body. You know, I think if it happened to me, I'd be kind of weary of playing Pokemon anymore. I'd be afraid of finding another dead body in my search for Pokemon. You know, before I talk about any more news of Pokemon Go, you know, I really wish there was a offline mode for this game. I mean, I know it doesn't make much sense to have an offline mode for this game because, you know, what the game is meant to do, and you kind of need to be, you do need to be online to play it because, you know, the game uses your GPS to find where you're located, where your location is, and you know, you kind of need to be connected for that. For somebody like me, our cell phones don't support the game, so data is out of the question. So I have it downloaded on my tablet, and my children's mother have the game on another device, another phone that also doesn't have data. So we can only really play where there's Wi-Fi. And you know, it's kind of a bummer. I wish we could actually go out and do a little more with the game. Luckily, most of our town you can catch Xfinity Wi-Fi. So, you know, I can walk around my town and catch Pokemon, at least. But, you know, it would have been awesome if they even at least had a mode where you could play offline. How it would work, I don't know. But I just think the game would benefit from that. More people would be able to play it. And, you know, that actually brings me on to another thing. Speaking of people playing the game and, you know, needing to get out and walk around and capture these Pokemon. There's people actually coming out with different ways to actually play the game while not offline. They're still online, but they can literally sit on their couch and play by clicking where they want to go, and they'll walk around. I mean, there's another one where it allows people to warp wherever they want in the world from the convenience of their couch. But, you know, I highly suggest not playing it like that anyways. I mean, I can understand if you're disabled and you really want to play Pokemon Go. You really can't if you're confined to a wheelchair or whatever other reason it would be that you can't leave your house. I mean, it would be nice for them people to be able to play the game in that manner. But people are getting banned. Nintendo's, you know, wielding that ban hammer and banning anybody using these type of exploits to capture Pokemon. You know, they want people out there searching for the Pokemon. That's the whole purpose of this game. But to move on, you know, you have a case of people stampeding through New York Central Park for a Vaporeon, which a video was caught of this. You know, I highly suggest looking this up and checking out the video. It's quite something to see. You know, just groups of people hanging out and capturing Pokemon. You know, it's really bringing people together. And, you know, that brings me on to another story I heard. I was told by somebody I knew the other day that the news was in Evansburg, Pennsylvania. You know, that this is news close to home, actually, you know. I didn't see the news report myself. I'm not really one to watch the news. But I've been capturing a little bit of the news here and there, or catching a bit of the news here and there about the game, just because, you know, it is Pokemon Go, and I wanted to do a segment on it, and I had to get as much information as possible, and the best place to do that was the news. But I missed this report. Apparently there was a group of around 30 people trying to catch a Dragonite right in Evansburg, Pennsylvania, which is 15 minutes from where I live. In Dunmore, Pennsylvania, 3 players got locked inside a cemetery. They'd gone into a cemetery to capture Pokemon, and I guess they didn't realize that the cemetery closed. I'll be honest, I didn't realize that there were cemeteries that closed, because around where I live, most cemeteries, at least all the cemeteries I know, are always open. A lot of them don't even have a fence around them. So, you know, I would have probably done the same thing. It got to be, just after dusk, and apparently they got locked inside the graveyard and had to call the police to help them get out of the graveyard. Another unfortunate event from playing Pokemon Go. But at least that's a funny one. Nobody got hurt on this one. Nobody found a dead body. I mean, there was tons of them around them, obviously, but luckily they were all buried. They didn't find any dead corpses just lying around. So, kind of a funny, tragic story all at once. But yeah, so that's Pokemon Go. It really has been somewhat of an enjoyable experience playing Pokemon Go. I've gotten a little frustrated with it, with the means of how I have to play the game, with playing on the tablet, not having data, having to rely on Wi-Fi to be able to play the game. And on top of that, just the whole servers keep going down, which happens quite often, which, in time, that'll be taken care of. So it has been frustrating, but, at the same time, the game has been a lot of fun. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for Pokemon Go. I just want to add to this that people have been worried about Nintendo becoming the next Sega. Let me tell you, yes, I am a Nintendo fanboy, so I am a little bit biased, but this just proves right here that Nintendo knows what they're doing. They're a multi-billion-dollar company. They will be around for a very, very long time. Even if the console market were to crash, Nintendo is going to roll on, probably continue with mobile gaming, probably continue with handhelds. But even if there is a console market crash, who knows, maybe Nintendo will be the ones responsible for bringing it back again. But Nintendo obviously knows what they're doing. And like I said, with the whole upcoming re-release of the NES, which, as I said, is a video for another time, they're going to make a ton of money even on that. I'm pretty sure even people that still own a normal Nintendo will probably buy this new thing, even as just a collector's piece, or maybe they don't have those games on their system, so it would be beneficial for them. So Nintendo is making a lot of money, going to make a lot of money off that. They've made a ton of money on Pokemon Go. This just proves Nintendo knows what they're doing. So they are not going to be the next Sega. And I'm so glad that Nintendo has decided to bring out a Pokemon game like this. A lot of people, especially my generation, have always wanted the opportunity to be able to actually catch real-life Pokemon. What if we could catch real-life Pokemon? And now, we're pretty close to that. This is as close as we're probably ever going to get to being able to capture Pokemon in real life, so to speak. I mean, it is still all virtual. It's a augmented reality game. So, here you go. This is as close as you're going to get to capturing Pokemon in real life. I definitely highly suggest playing it. If you have the means to play it, go play it. But please, please do as the game says. And be aware of your surroundings at all times. Don't be stupid and walk out in the middle of the street with a car coming down the road, or walk off a cliff, or who knows what else, fall down a flight of steps. Don't get yourself hurt just for a Pokemon. I understand, the game's fun. I understand the game is about catching them all. But just remember, you miss that Pokemon that you're after, it's okay. You can go get another one. Because life is precious, and it cannot be replaced. So please, seriously, be careful playing Pokemon Go, but definitely go play you some Pokemon Go. It's good for your health, and it's good for, for your social life. Get out there and mingle and meet new people, other people who are also playing Pokemon Go. That is what this game is meant for fun, to meet new people, and to get exercise. So please play Pokemon Go and be safe about it. Until next time, for the next Gabbing Gamer Geeks, I am your host Rontro, and I will see you next time. And until then, game on.